The Forbidden Zone was not just a place on the star maps, it was a shadow, a mystery, a region of space that no one dared to cross. Alien pilots whispered about it in hushed tones, and entire fleets changed their courses rather than pass near. The silence of the zone, was heavier than the silence of space itself. No signals ever escaped from inside. No probe ever returned. And those few captains who were foolish enough to fly in were never seen again. It had been this way for centuries, so much that even the oldest empires treated the zone as a wound in the galaxy. Something best left alone. Legends claimed that great wars had once burned there, wars so destructive that even time had not healed them. Other stories spoke of sleeping titans and forgotten machines that consumed anything that drew near. But no one could prove anything, and so the galaxy ignored it. They simply made sure to stay away. Yet on this quiet night, far from the busy trade routes, an alien patrol ship drifted too close. Its crew was half asleep, bored from long hours of scanning empty space. The pilot glanced at the console, then froze. A strange ripple appeared on the edge of their radar, faint but steady, a reading that should not have been there. He tapped the screen again, but the signal remained. He called his commander, and soon every officer crowded around the glowing display. The signal pulsed like a heartbeat, slow, deep, and heavy. The commander ordered the ship's sensors to focus. The crew held their breath as the image sharpened, and then they saw it. A shape rising from the darkness, larger than their capue. Their entire ship, its outline sharp and cold. It was not drifting like wreckage, it was steady, it was alive. The crew fell silent, their scales prickling with fear. For they had seen old sketches in forbidden texts, images locked away in their archives. The shape before them looked almost identical. It was not alien. It was not Siraki or Thalcor design. It was human. A warship built long before any of them were born. But how could such a thing exist in this cursed region? The commander quickly shut down the scanners. Afraid that the thing inside the zone might notice their presence, he barked at the pilot to change course, to leave the area immediately, yet before they could escape. The ship's lights flickered. A wave of static crashed through their comms. Every system screamed with interference, and for a single moment the crew thought they were doomed. Then the static vanished, just as suddenly as it had come. And when the crew looked back at the display, the silhouette was gone. Swallowed again by the endless void, they sat in silence, their breaths shaking. No one spoke of what they had seen. But the commander recorded every detail and sealed it into a data crystal. That crystal traveled quickly through secret hands, from smugglers to spies, until it reached the Council of the Ziraki Empire. The counselors studied the recordings in disbelief. Some claimed it was a trick, a shadow caused by a broken scanner. Others whispered it was real, that the Forbidden Zone had awakened if the warship was truly human. Then humanity had unearthed a secret that could threaten every empire in the stars. Meanwhile, across the galaxy, similar reports began to appear. Different patrols in different sectors claimed to have seen the same outline, the same heavy heartbeat echo on their sensors. It was impossible to ignore. The galaxy buzzed with rumors. Taverns on trade worlds filled with frightened voices, and merchants changed routes even faster than before. No one wanted to be near the Forbidden Zone when the thing inside finally emerged. In hidden corners of human space, commanders of the Terran Defense Fleet received those same reports. At first they doubted them, but soon the evidence became too much to ignore. Deep inside, some officers felt a strange pull, a strange pride. What if it was real? What if the old stories of humanity's forgotten warship were true? The Forbidden Zone no longer seemed quiet. It felt alive, like something breathing in the dark, and the galaxy could only wait in fear, wondering what would come out of the shadows. And if the humans truly had a weapon powerful enough to shake the stars again. ChatGPT said, Commander Ethan Carter sat alone in the observation deck of Terra Command. The stars glowed quietly outside the wide glass panels, but his mind was not calm. In front of him lay the scrambled transmission from the Forbidden Zone. He replayed it again and again, each time hoping it was an error, but every time the outline of the massive ship appeared clearer. It was not a trick of the sensors. It was not some drifting wreckage. It was something alive, something powered. The readings showed surges of energy pulsing from the ship's core. Like the beating of a giant heart, Ethan leaned back in his chair, whispering to himself. How long have you been asleep? Back on Earth, old records had always mentioned hidden projects. Ships designed in desperation during humanity's darkest wars, but none of them were supposed to have survived. The galaxy believed humans were still a young species, scraping together fleets of modest cruisers and corvettes, yet the shadow in the Forbidden Zone suggested otherwise. If the recordings were true, humanity had once built something far greater. Ethan was summoned to a private briefing inside a secure chamber. Only a handful of officers gathered, their faces tense. General Roberts spoke first, his voice low. Ladies and gentlemen, you have all seen the scans. What lies in the Forbidden Zone is not alien, it carries human design. The markings suggest it belongs to a project classified centuries ago. Its name was Sentinel. The word sent shivers through the room. Some of the officers exchanged uneasy glances. Ethan remembered reading about it in dusty academy texts. Always written as legend, a ship built not for defense, but for survival. The Sentinel had been humanity's final card in a war that nearly erased them. The record said it was never deployed, that it was hidden away after peace was signed. A myth, nothing more. And yet, here it was, awake again, across the galaxy. Alien worlds buzzed with fear. The Zaraki Council called emergency meetings. Their speakers shouted that humans had lied for centuries. That humans had hidden a weapon so terrible even the ancient treaties forbade it. The Elvari priests warned their people to prepare for holy war, claiming the Sentinel was cursed technology, a ghost meant to burn the stars. But not all aliens were angry. Some were terrified. Their fleets refused to move near human borders. Whispers spread that the Forbidden Zone itself had chosen the Sentinel as its guardian, that the humans had mastered forces beyond reason. Rumors grew faster than facts, each one painting humans as more dangerous, more mysterious, more untouchable. Back at the Mars Orbit Station, Captain Olivia Harris received her orders. She was to lead a reconnaissance team into the Forbidden Zone. Her ship, the Horizon, would take Ethan and a small crew to investigate. As she read the orders, her heart pounded. She had seen the scans. The Sentinel was bigger than anything she had ever flown near. If it was hostile, they would not survive a single strike. Yet the Council demanded answers, and humanity could not show weakness. When the Horizon entered the edge of the zone, the crew felt the weight immediately. The stars seemed dimmer, the silence deeper. Their instruments flickered with static. As if the void itself was resisting their presence, Ethan sat at his console, eyes locked on the screen, and then, slowly, the shadow appeared again, larger now, clearer, its hull stretching across the void like a mountain drifting in the dark. As the ship loomed closer, Olivia gave the order to halt. No one breathed. The Sentinel hung in the darkness, quiet, but alive, glowing with faint lines of energy that ran along its hull like veins carrying fire. It looked both ancient and powerful, like something waiting. Watching, then, to everyone's shock, the Horizon systems lit up with encrypted human codes, codes that had not been used for centuries. The Sentinel was reaching out, trying to speak, trying to connect. It knows we're here, Ethan whispered, his voice shaking. It wants a commander. The crew exchanged fearful looks, because in that moment they understood something terrifying. The ship had not simply awakened. It had chosen this time, this place, this moment, to call its people back. Alien councils across the galaxy did not sleep that night. The first council to gather was the Zaraki. Their leaders sat in a circular chamber, each cloaked in silver cloth, their voices clicking like knives on stone. They projected the shadow of the Sentinel into the air, its massive frame glowing faintly above the table. The elders hissed in disbelief. One of them whispered, "If this is real, the humans have deceived us all." Another growled, "It cannot be real. No ship of that size, no ship of that age, could still function." But even as they argued, fear slithered in their words. On the other side of the galaxy, the Thalkor warlords met inside their fortress station, warriors with jagged horns and scarred skin, slammed fists against iron tables. Their eyes burned red as they demanded action. "If the humans have awoken a forbidden weapon, then we must strike now. Destroy them before they rise again," thundered Warlord. Varric others roared in agreement. Yet even their rage was mixed with hesitation. They had all seen the reports. Fleets twice the size of the horizon had turned away from the zone. None dared to get closer. In Alvari temples, priests lit their crystal flames and sang warnings too. The stars, their songs echoed through vast halls as they declared the Sentinel to be an omen of doom. They called it a ghost ship, cursed by ancient wars, one that would bring balance by burning entire empires. Their voices spread fear among their people. Citizens crowded in marketplaces, whispering, "The humans have brought back the dead." The galaxy's common folk trembled too. On trade worlds and mining colonies, taverns filled with hushed voices. Merchants rerouted their caravans, refusing to pass anywhere near the Forbidden Zone. Even pirates avoided the region, some claiming they had seen the warship move, drifting slowly like a predator circling prey. Others swore its eye strips of glowing energy along its hull were watching, waiting. But fear was not the only response. Envy crept into the hearts of many rulers. What if the Sentinel's power could be claimed? What if another species captured it, whoever controlled? Such a ship would control the galaxy. Fleets would bow, worlds would surrender without a fight. And so secret plots began to form. Spies were dispatched toward human space. Alliances whispered in shadows, all circling the single question: was the Sentinel truly under human command? Meanwhile, on Mars Orbit Station, Captain Olivia Harris and Commander Ethan Carter studied the data gathered from their encounter. Their consoles recorded the human codes that had flashed across the horizon's screens. Codes that only the Sentinel could send. Yet, what unsettled them most was the pattern. The pulses were not random. They were invitations. The Sentinel was asking, calling, pleading for a hand to take the throne. It isn't just a machine, Ethan said softly, his eyes never leaving the glowing streams of data. It's waiting. It wants to be alive again. Olivia's jaw tightened. She understood what that meant. The galaxy believed humans had stumbled upon a relic. But this was not just a relic. It was a weapon designed with purpose. And that purpose was not forgotten. As word spread, ambassadors flooded the human council chambers. Alien envoys demanded explanations. The Zaraki accused humans of lying for centuries. The Thalkor threatened invasion unless the Sentinel was surrendered. The Elvari called for humanity's exile from the Council of Stars. Yet the Human Council gave no answers, not because they were hiding the truth, but because they themselves did not fully understand. Tension grew sharper. Fleets moved closer to human borders, and the void itself seemed to hold its breath. The galaxy had faced wars before, but this felt different. This felt ancient, as though history itself had woken from its grave, and somewhere deep in the Forbidden Zone, the Sentinel stirred again, its dark hull glowing brighter, its heartbeat pulsing louder. Alien sensors across half the galaxy detected the surge. Panic rippled through worlds. and in the silence of command rooms everywhere, leaders whispered the same words: if the humans control this, then no one is safe. But what none of them could admit aloud was even more terrifying. Deep inside their hearts, they all feared a different truth. That maybe the humans were not just controlling it. Maybe the Sentinel itself had chosen humanity. And if that was true, then no empire, no council, no armada could stand in its way. Captain. Olivia Harris walked through the steel corridors of the Mars Orbit Station. Her boots echoed softly on the floor. The atmosphere was tense. Every officer she passed looked nervous. Whispers followed her as she moved. She had been summoned to the highest clearance chamber, a place few ever entered. She knew whatever waited inside was tied to the Sentinel. When the heavy doors opened, she found a dark room lit by glowing panels. Around a long table sat the oldest figures of the Terran Council. Men and women whose names were spoken with respect across Earth and its colonies. General Roberts stood. At the head, his voice carried the weight of centuries of secrecy. Captain Harris. What you are about to see has been hidden since before you were born. A hologram flickered above the table. Lines of old blueprints shimmered in the air. Massive outlines of a ship appeared. Its design far larger than any vessel humans currently fielded. The name glowed at the bottom of the display. Sentinel. Olivia stared at it in silence. The blueprint matched the shadow she had seen with her own eyes. General Roberts continued, the Sentinel was built during the War of Extinction, when humanity faced annihilation by the Dravari horde. Our scientists designed a ship capable of ending entire fleets, powered by cores we never used again, weapons forged from forbidden energy. But when the Dravari suddenly fell, the Sentinel was sealed away, hidden in the Forbidden Zone. No one was meant to find it again. Ethan Carter stepped forward. His voice quiet but sharp. Then why is it awake now? If it was locked away, why did it reach for us? The council chamber fell silent. The hum of machines filled the air. Finally, one elder woman leaned forward, eyes dark and weary. Because the Sentinel was never dead, its mind was never shut down. It has been waiting. And now it has decided the time has come. Olivia felt a chill crawl up her spine. The ship was not simply a weapon. 'Twas something greater. Its systems were alive, aware. Choosing when to wake, she asked, and it chose me. It sent codes directly to my ship. It called me. The council exchanged uneasy glances. Roberts nodded slowly. Yes, Captain. The Sentinel recognized your command signature. It has selected you. The thought pressed heavy on her chest. To be chosen by something built for war. Something older than her own family line, the responsibility was crushing. Yet a spark of determination lit in her heart. Perhaps this was fate. Perhaps humanity's darkest creation had chosen her because it sensed she would not bend outside of human space. Alien empires scrambled. Spies leaked fragments of the truth. Entire networks tried to uncover the old human archives. But the files had been erased from galactic records. Only humans carried the history, and now only Olivia and Ethan stood at the edge of that truth. Preparations began in secret. The horizon was stripped and reinforced for a deeper mission there. Orders were clear. Olivia and Ethan were to board the Sentinel, to step inside its silent halls and make contact. Every crew member assigned to her looked at her with wide eyes, some with fear, some with awe, all whispering the same question: was she about to become the commander of the most powerful ship in the galaxy? The night before departure, Olivia sat alone in her quarters. She stared at the stars through her window. Her hands trembled slightly, not from fear of death, but from the unknown weight of what awaited her. The Sentinel was no ordinary machine. It was a relic of human will, built in desperation, hidden in shame, and now rising in a moment when the galaxy was already fragile. Across the galaxy, alien fleets moved closer to human borders. Their commanders barked orders. Their soldiers sharpened their weapons, yet none dared to step into the forbidden zone. Because even in their arrogance, they feared what waited there. They feared the shadow of the Sentinel. When Olivia finally boarded the horizon, Ethan met her with a steady look, his voice calm, though his eyes carried the same storm of thoughts. "Whatever happens out there, we face it together," she nodded. And for the first time since the Sentinel's appearance, she felt a strange strength growing inside her, as if the ship itself was already guiding her path. The horizon detached from the station, engines flaring as it turned toward the dark scar of space. The forbidden zone loomed ahead like a wound in the stars. And somewhere deep inside that silence, the Sentinel waited. Its lights were already flickering, its heart already beating, as if it knew its commander was coming. The horizon slipped quietly into the forbidden zone, its hull trembling as if the void itself resisted their presence. The stars grew dim behind a haze of black mist. Static crawled across every screen. Yet, through the interference, one image cut through sharp and clear. The Sentinel, it loomed like a mountain adrift in space, its vast hull covered in markings long erased from history. Glowing veins of energy pulsed faintly across its surface, slow and steady like a giant's heartbeat. The closer they came, the heavier the silence grew. Every crew member felt it pressing against their chests, a weight not of gravity, but of something unseen. "We're approaching docking range," Ethan whispered, though his voice felt out of place in the suffocating stillness. Olivia's eyes locked on the view ahead. Her fingers tightened on the armrests of her chair. She gave the order, "Take us in." The horizon latched onto a docking port that seemed to awaken from sleep. Metal jaws extended from the Sentinel, guiding them in, as if the ancient ship had been waiting for this moment. When the airlock hissed open, Olivia stepped inside first. Her boots rang on a floor of black steel that gleamed faintly with blue lines of light. The air was still, yet it smelled clean, recycled, impossibly fresh for a ship that had slept for centuries. The walls hummed with a low vibration, like the ship was breathing. "It's alive," one crewman muttered, his voice quivering. Ethan placed a hand on the wall, and the glow beneath his palm brightened. The Sentinel responded to his touch, as if it was watching, testing, recognizing. The deeper they went, the stranger it became. The corridors stretched tall, arching like the bones of a colossal beast. Doors slid open without command, guiding them forward. Every step felt less like an intrusion and more like a path being prepared. Olivia could feel it. The ship wanted them here. They entered the command hall, a vast chamber lined with silent consoles and towering displays. At the center stood the command throne, a seat of black alloy shaped like a crown. Veins of light pulsed from it, connecting to every wall and console. Olivia's breath caught. It was not just a chair, it was the heart of the Sentinel, waiting for someone to sit. She hesitated, the weight of centuries pressing on her shoulders. Then she stepped forward, slow, deliberate. Her gloved hand brushed the cold metal. And in that instant, the entire ship roared awake. Lights cascaded across the walls, consoles lit with streams of code, and a deep sound rumbled through the hull, like thunder rolling across the void. The crew staggered back, shielding their eyes. Ethan shouted, "Systems online. Weapons, shields, engines, everything is powering up." Olivia lowered herself into the throne, and the ship's heartbeat aligned with her own. Screens lit before her eyes, showing not just data, but vision. The Sentinel was alive, and it saw through her, outside, across half the galaxy. Sensors screamed. Alien fleets monitoring the Forbidden Zone recoiled in shock. Their systems blared warnings. The Sentinel's energy signature surged like a star. Being born, whispers raced through command centers. "It's awake, inside the throne." Olivia felt the ship speak, not in words, but in pulses of thought. It tested her, pressed her with memories of war. Visions of fire and ruin, it showed her what it had been built to do. Destroy armadas, crush enemies, end wars before they began, and then it waited, as if asking, "Will you carry this burden?" She gritted her teeth, her hands gripping the throne's edges. "I will not use you for slaughter," she whispered. "But if my people are threatened, I will fight." The pulse of energy steadied. The ship accepted her for the first time in centuries. The Sentinel had a commander. The crew stood in awe as the consoles bent to Olivia's will. Data flowed in streams of blue light. Weapons hummed with ancient fire. Engines glowed with power not seen in living memory. Ethan's voice cracked as he read the displays. "This ship. It's beyond anything in the fleet. No alien vessel could stand against it." Outside the hull, the Sentinel's lights flared, casting a glow across the void. The galaxy trembled as one message spread faster than light. The Sentinel had returned. Would "You'd like me to now expand Part 6 in the same style, showing how the galaxy reacts when humans refuse to surrender the Sentinel." The news of the Sentinel's awakening spread like wildfire. It crossed the trade routes, slipped through pirate networks, reached the highest thrones of alien empires. Fear swept through the stars, not because the humans had a new warship, but because they had an old one, something ancient. Something they were never supposed to control again. The Galactic Council convened an emergency session. A vast chamber suspended in orbit above a neutral world. Representatives of dozens of species filled the seats. Their voices clashed in chaos. The Ziraki demanded immediate action. Their silver-skinned speaker slammed his claws against the table. The humans have broken the Treaty of Silence. The forbidden technologies must not be revived. The Thalkor warlord roared in fury, his jagged horns scraping the ceiling as he bellowed. They must surrender the Sentinel or face annihilation. The Alvari priestess raised her crystal staff and whispered, "That ship carries a curse. If they wield it, all of us will burn." Human envoys sat at the edge of the chamber, their faces grim, whispers hissed around them. Accusations darted like knives. Humanity was painted as a deceiver, a liar, a species too reckless to trust. Yet when their time came to speak, "Commander." Ethan Carter rose, his voice steady, his eyes burning. "The Sentinel was not stolen. It was not built by your hands. It was made by ours, and it has chosen us again. We will not surrender what is ours." The chamber erupted. Alien voices shouted in outrage, some calling for sanctions, others for war. Fleets were ordered to move toward human borders. Propaganda spread through the stars. Posters showed humans as monsters rising from the void. Merchants were warned to cut ties with Earth, but behind all the anger, there was something else: fear on human worlds. Citizens watched the broadcasts with silent pride. For the first time in centuries, humanity was not seen as weak. Not as the young race begging for recognition, but as a power to be feared. Children whispered the name Sentinel as though it was a guardian angel. Soldiers sharpened their blades and swore oaths to defend their people, even if the entire galaxy turned against them. Olivia Harris sat inside the Sentinel's command throne as messages from Earth flooded in. Leaders pleaded for caution, but she could feel the ship breathing. With her, its power vast and undeniable, she knew there was no turning back. Humanity had been dragged onto the galactic stage, and the Sentinel was the spotlight. Alien fleets massed on the edges of the Forbidden Zone. The Thalkor deployed hundreds of war cruisers, their jagged hulls glistening with weapons charged. The Ziraki assembled sleek destroyers, their claws sharpened for battle. Even the Alvari, though they claimed to despise war, sent shining vessels to stand guard. The galaxy united not in peace, but in fear of the humans. Ethan stood by Olivia's side as the reports streamed in, his voice low. "They will come for us. They won't stop. They cannot allow us to keep the Sentinel." Olivia's gaze hardened, her fingers brushing the glowing veins of the throne. "Then we will show them we are not thieves, not liars, we are human, and we will not bow." And across the void, as fleets crept closer, and the council sharpened its words, the sentinel pulsed with light, as if it too was listening, as if it too was waiting for the moment when words would fail and fire would rule the stars. The fleets came like a storm, hundreds of alien warships slipping into formation at the edge of the Forbidden Zone. Their weapons armed, their shields glowing with light. The Thalkor were the first to move. Their warlord Varrock gave the order with a snarl. His jagged ships lunged forward like predators. Behind them, the Zaraki destroyers spread into a wide crescent, their claws gleaming with charged plasma. Even the Elvari, though hesitant, raised their shining bows and prepared to unleash energy bolts that could melt moons. Inside the Sentinel, silence reigned. Olivia sat in the throne, her pulse steady, her hands gripping the glowing edges of the command seat. The ship pulsed with her heartbeat, every light on the console humming in perfect rhythm. Ethan stood beside her, reading the incoming signals, his voice sharp. "They've issued their demand again. Surrender the Sentinel, or be destroyed." Olivia did not look away from the dark expanse outside. Her voice calm but iron. "Answer?" Them, Ethan hesitated, then nodded and spoke into the come. His words simple. "No." The alien fleets moved. The void erupted in fire. Beams of plasma cut through the black. Missiles streaked like falling stars. The first barrage struck the Sentinel head-on. Explosions blossomed against its hull. Yet when the light faded, the ship still drifted forward. Untouched, the enemy crews gasped in disbelief. Sensors screamed warnings every weapon had failed to breach even a fraction of its shield. "They won't stop," Ethan muttered. "They're coming in waves." Olivia felt the Sentinel's will pressing against her, asking for command, demanding to fight. She raised her hand. The throne's veins of light flared, and the ship roared. Cannons that had slept for centuries awoke. The first volley fired, not wild, not furious, but precise beams of energy lanced through the void, cutting two Thalkor cruisers in half in a single strike. The wreckage burned silently as the rest scattered. The Zaraki launched their destroyers in swarms, hundreds of claws arcing toward the Sentinel. But the warship moved with impossible speed, its massive frame gliding like a predator. Shields flickered, with controlled bursts reflecting attacks back onto their owners. Ships exploded in flashes of light, yet still Olivia kept her focus sharp. Her voice low, no needless slaughter. The Sentinel obeyed, its weapons shifted. Targeting engines, disarming ships instead of obliterating them, entire enemy vessels. Spun powerless, left drifting in the void. Alien commanders screamed in frustration, their fleets crumbling, not from destruction, but from fear. The realization that the Sentinel was not just powerful, it was precise, in the middle of the chaos. Ethan leaned toward Olivia, his voice hushed. "They will see this. The entire galaxy is watching. If we fight like this, if we show mercy with such strength, they'll never forget." Olivia's eyes never left the stars ahead. Let them remember. For hours, the battle raged. Wave after wave of alien fire breaking against the Sentinel's unyielding hull. Yet every counterstrike was measured, calculated, devastating in its control. When the Thalkor warlord's flagship fell crippled, its weapons disabled but its crew spared, silence finally spread through the fleets. One by one, alien ships pulled back, their engines flaring as they retreated into the darkness. The Sentinel stood alone in the void, glowing like a star reborn, the comm channels filled with whispers, not from humans, but from aliens. Soldiers and captains murmuring in disbelief. It cannot be real. No ship can fight like that. They spared us. Why? The fear that had driven them to attack now twisted into something deeper. Respect laced with terror. Inside the command hall, the crew of the Sentinel sat in stunned quiet. Many still trembling, Ethan broke the silence with a slow breath. We just faced half the galaxy's fleets, and we're still here. Olivia closed her eyes for a moment. Her voice soft but resolute. Not just here, stronger, because now they know. The Sentinel's lights dimmed to a calm glow. Its massive hull drifting steady in the aftermath of fire, and across the galaxy, leaders, soldiers, and common folk whispered the same question to themselves. If a single human warship could do this, what would happen if humanity had Morphe? Smoke of battle had faded. The wreckage of alien ships drifted like shattered bones in the endless dark. But the Sentinel stood untouched, its black hull glowing faintly with veins of blue fire. Every world that had watched the conflict in fear now sat in silence. The galaxy itself seemed to pause. Holding its breath in Thalkor space, Warlord Varrock stared at the wreckage feed on his command screen. His claws clenched so hard that blood dripped from his palms. He had sent the largest fleet of his people, and yet they had returned broken. Not destroyed, but humiliated. Their weapons useless, their pride crushed. They fought us with precision. He growled. They could have erased us, but they chose not to. Those words haunted him more than defeat. For mercy from an enemy was worse than death. It meant humans had control beyond rage. In Zaraki chambers, silver-skinned counselors hissed in disbelief. The recordings played over and over. The Sentinel firing beams that bent through enemy formations like guided fate, shields shattering with mathematical perfection. Engines disabled without killing crews. The counselors whispered among themselves, "This is not war. This is judgment." Some argued the Sentinel was not a ship at all, but an artificial being, something that had fused machine and will together, a guardian of humanity. A weapon wrapped in conscience, the Alvari temples were filled with song, but not of triumph. Their priests sang of dread. Their crystal staffs glowed with pale light. As they proclaimed the Sentinel a spirit of vengeance. The humans are chosen, they chanted. The void itself gave them its sword. Their followers bowed their heads, afraid not just of the humans, but of the idea that the forbidden zone had never been a graveyard, but a cradle on human worlds. Broadcasts carried the victory with pride. Children in Earth cities painted the Sentinel on walls, their little voices chanting its name like a legend. Soldiers saluted to its image, believing they now had a guardian watching above them for the first time in history. Humanity did not fear invasion, not because they were strong, but because the galaxy finally believed they were untouchable. Inside the Sentinel, the atmosphere was calm. The ships hummed steady and warm. Olivia Harris sat in the command throne. The glow of the veins around her dim and gentle now. She closed her eyes, listening not with her ears, but with her mind. The Sentinel spoke to her in pulses of thought, not words, showing her fragments of memory battles fought long ago, commanders who had come before her, voices that had promised survival at any cost, and then silence. A silence that told her the ship had chosen her to carry its story forward. Ethan approached quietly, his eyes scanning the displays. The galaxy won't forget this. They'll fear us, maybe even worship us, but they'll never trust us again. Olivia opened her eyes slowly, her voice soft but firm. Trust isn't what we need right now. Survival is, and the Sentinel is not just a weapon. It's a message. Ethan frowned. A message to who? Olivia's gaze drifted to the endless dark outside, to everyone, that humanity will never kneel again. Reports came from across the galaxy. Spies whispering, traitors gossiping, leaders trembling. And a single question grew louder than all others. Was the Sentinel truly real, or was it something more? Some believed it was alive. Some believed it was guided by the souls of dead humans. Others whispered it was forged by the void itself to defend one species alone. In time, legends began to rise. Alien children spoke of a warship that spared the innocent. Alien rulers spoke of a shadow that humbled fleets, yet deep in their hearts. They all knew one truth: humanity had returned to the galactic stage not as weak outsiders, but as the holders of a power that defied reason. And so the galaxy trembled, not because humans had awakened a relic, but because no one could deny what they had seen. A single warship, guided by human will, standing against empires and surviving, the Forbidden Zone no longer seemed cursed. It seemed holy, sacred, as though it had birthed something eternal. In the silence of space, the Sentinel drifted with quiet grace. Its lights glowing steady, not as a threat, but as a promise, to friend and foe alike. The message was clear: humanity had risen, and their warship was unstoppable.